Welcome back to Ace Attorney Picks. Court will now reconvene. Has our witness, Miss Olga, recovered? Yes, Your Honor. Well, she has regained consciousness. Perhaps we can hear her version of the events again? That's the thing, you see. She's quite fatigued. You're looking a bit fatigued yourself, Mr. Payne. Sadly, fatigue is insufficient grounds for refusing to testify or prosecute. The defense would like to request that Miss O'Reilly takes the stand. Very well, the witness will take the stand. Perhaps you could repeat your name and profession. Or perhaps you'd rather admit you're a poor liar and a poor loser? Not. Name's Olga O'Reilly, and that's the truth. I am a pro dealer. People call me Olga Quickfingers O'Reilly. Oh, really? Want to know something else? I am not really Russian. And my last name sounds like O'Reilly. There, that's the truth. I hope you're satisfied. Witness, you will tell the court what you really saw, what you were really up to that night. Oh, fine, I'll talk. We had a plan, you see. Let me remind you, you are currently under oath. Any further fabrications will have serious consequences. Oh, fine. Like I said, I'm a pro. That guy Smith hired me to do what I do best. I was planted at the Bosch Club several days prior to the night of that game, as a waitress. So you were in cahoots with the victim? Not that he needed my help, Smith. Smith is a well-known poker player in some circles. But winning wasn't the main purpose of this game. It was about destroying a legend, the unbeatable Phoenix Wright. The plan was simple, elegant, really. You see, we set up a trap of sorts. I was to plant the card in Mr. Wright's pocket beforehand, and then deal 5 aces during one of their games. When the hands were revealed, Mr. Smith would call him out and search Mr. Wright. He would then pull out the planted card, and the trap would snap shut. You swapped the cards! Exposes the cheater and losing on top of it. Oh, it would be made a great double play. Just like that, the legend would be dashed to pieces. Indeed. Getting caught red-handed cheating would cast down on all of his prior wins. Can you see where this is going? A 7-year legend destroyed by one little card. That was the plan. Oh really, oh really? How? Drool. But it appears you made quite a mistake. A mistake? I agree. Hello there! Welcome, Callie and company. Welcome to the world of Ace Attorney, where everything is fucked up and we don't know what's going on. Well, I do, but everyone else doesn't, and Pix is grinding her gears trying to figure everything out and calling me a bitch because I keep grinning, because I know. Yeah, that's also a thing. Welcome to where Pix has an aneurysm. I agree the trap was elegant, yet what happened to that planted card? Hey, that's right. Oh, he's lucky I'll give him that. You'd have to be to slip free from a trap laid by Olga Quickfingers O'Reilly. Oh, really? The witness would be much cuter if she had to spend with that evil mastermind shtick. Cute. Who wants to be cute? I'm not cute. I'm bad. You hear me? bad. When you're through being bad, perhaps you could testify to the court. Tell us about this trap and how it was sprung. Hey! Thank you for the 6 months there, posse. Your continued support is much appreciated. Emotes for everyone. Hey! What's up, Callie? How are you? Yes, Felix has been on trial for murder 3 times now. I'm doing great. It's amazing fun to see Pix's reaction to everything going on here. I think that's the most entertaining part of this. Oh. That night I was planted the card like I was supposed to, and Wright lost the last hand, just as he was supposed to. Then Smith searched him, but the planted card was gone. The trap failed. The next moment, Wright picked up the bottle and swung it. It wasn't me who hit Smith. It was that no good cheating defendant. Yeah, I tried to drink some water and I got a giggling fit. And yeah, you can guess how that happened, how that goes. A surprisingly frank testimony that leaves us mostly in the dark. A trap was perfect, I tell you, perfect. If that rotten cheater hadn't messed it up. Look who's talking. Well, the testimony, for what it's worth, is all yours, Mr. Justice. With a witness like her who needs criminals? And with defendants like Mr. Wright who needs prosecutors? This planted card, which card was it exactly? The trump card, the 5 of hearts. Let me guess. Mr. Wright was to have switched the 5 with the ace to make a full house. Huh? Well, at least that's what you were going to accuse him of doing, thereby ruining his legend. I slid it into Mr. Wright's pocket. When was this? Why, before the match, of course, while he was eating. At the Borswas Club, we have served borscht and suckers. Remind me to never go there. Of course. The card was to make its grand debut during the game. Like a good borscht, a good plot must be cooked up early and be allowed to thicken. So, everything went according to plan. Exactly. The 5th ace came up, so it's obvious that the switch went off without a hitch. Once the card was found in his pocket, Wright would be forever known as a cheat and a fraud. There are worse things to be known as, I suppose. Tell us what happened with the search. The card disappeared? Yeah, my trump card. The 5 of hearts. Oh yeah, she put the 5 of hearts in Phoenix's pocket. That's how it was. Gone without a trace. Soup, poof, zipper. We searched every nook and cranny, even inside his cute little hat. But the card was nowhere to be found, is that correct? Never in my long storied career, never has Quick Fingers O'Reilly been so rapidly duped. Oh, really? So what did happen to this file heart? Don't look at me. Why did you ask that cheating, lying, two-faced defendant? So the file heart is still missing in action. The next moment, Miss Wright picked up the bottle and swallowed it. Wait, isn't that a little odd? What's odd? You searched Mr. Wright thoroughly and found nothing, which means he didn't cheat, which means he had no reason to strike the victim. Well... What was that just now? I said something. Something wrong, Mr. Justice? No, nothing. No, nothing, Your Honor. What do I do? Should I press her a little harder? Miss O'Reilly, you're hiding something. What are you talking about? You? Me? Quick Fingers O'Reilly? Hiding something? The defense will refrain from baseless accusations. I have one question for the witness stand. You say you saw the moment the defendant hit the victim. Is this true? Of course it's true. I did see it, honest. I saw it when Mr. Wright hit him. I saw it when Wright hit him. With my own eyes, I saw it. What's a weird vibe I'm getting? That witness, for instance, Miss O'Reilly, she would touch the back of her neck during certain parts of her testimony. Did you notice? Touching her neck, was it? Whoa, what's going on? This sensation, it's coming into focus. There, the twitch, it's so clear. It's like I could perceive her habit like I couldn't before. Gotcha! Miss O'Reilly, perhaps you are unaware of this yourself. Unaware of what? Whenever you get to a certain part of your testimony, you touch the back of your neck with your left hand. I'm always grinning, pigs. You know, it's like rolling the dice when you play D&D, just randomly as the game master, just always rolling the dice. Do I have my dice here? I don't. My dice is in the closet. Yeah, gotta like roll those shiny clackety clacking stones, the clickety clacky stones. Shiny stones with clickety clackety. Must have all of them. My neck. So what? What indeed, Justice? I hadn't noticed anything of the sort. I need to find the Dice Goblin picture that I have. I have a bunch of Dice Goblin pictures that I got from Farnwell. That is also a thing you can discuss. I know that my sister Farnwell, though she's only on my Discord, and I think she's on Kaimo's Discord as well, but like, you know, D&D stories, do tell all of them if you're in my channel, in my Discord. Because it's amazing with D&D stories, I love it. I'm also Dice Goblin, gotta have all the clickety-clacketies, the shiny clickety-clacketies. I hadn't noticed anything of the sort. When she says the part of her testimony, she's subconsciously recalling something. Her body racks her memory, and she touches her neck. I'm sure of it. Memory? Would someone care to explain what he's babbling about? This is highly unusual, but let's ask the defense. You claim the witness is remembering something. Maybe you have evidence of this memory to show us. Her habit is scratching her neck whenever she talks about the moment of her crime. So what would remind her the most of the moment of the crime? Mr. Really, whenever you recall the crime of that night, you scratch your neck. I've noticed this happen whenever you think of the moment of the crime. There must be some reason behind this habit of yours. And I believe that weapon left you with an impression. The weapon left you with an impression on your neck is this. Whenever she talks about the moment of the crime, she touches her neck. And what reminds us more of the moment than this bottle, the murder weapon? Yeah, so on the bright side, like just having listened a little bit on Callie's D&D, the one I'm planning probably won't have as much PTSD inducing things involved. Maybe. But I do like hearing Callie's D&D stuff. Like, it makes me feel like a novice and I love it.
Masochist.
Wait, why? Why is that me being masochistic? It just like means, hey,
because you're getting drunk on the feeling of inferiority.
No, that's not how it works at all. It's like, I still have much to learn. I still have much to do, you know? So much to learn in D&D still. That is the thing. That's like, yes, I want to learn more. I want to do more with my D&Ding and my game mastering and story writing. That's what it's about. Nothing about inferiority, jeez. It's the lust for knowledge. But something doesn't fit. If you were the only witness of the crime, why would that make you touch your neck like you're in pain? What's he talking about now? Now that's just because you set everything on fire. It was Mr. Smith, the victim, was hit, not you. Exactly, Pix knows what's up. This is a cross-examination, not a cross-wild conjecture. The witness' habits are completely irrelevant. Justice, I'll admit, I'm a bit confused myself. This is certainly a unique cross-examination. I'll explain later. Just trust me, now's our only chance to break her. Miss O'Reilly, please testify in detail about the moment of the crime, the very moment. Yet, I know nothing. We know you're not Russian. Well, the witness will testify, please, now. Fine. He's the one who did it. I didn't let him out of my sight until the cops got there. You seem uneasy. You try sitting up here. Her eyes are getting darting all over the place. Must be getting warm. Tell me, after the crime, what was the defendant like? Well, he must have been stunned by the weight of his crime. He sat in a daze at the table until the cops came. Intriguing. I believe you've gotten all the testimony you're going to get out of this witness. So, what do you think about her testimony? I'll tell you what I think. Her testimony is bogus. It's basically bogus. It contradicts the evidence. What's that? Well, show us this evidence, Mr. Justice. This evidence you claim contradicts the witness' testimony. She didn't let him out of his sight until the cops got here? I know there's some evidence to contradict that. Miss O'Reilly, we have a record here that clearly contradicts what you said. I should really spend some time, if I have time tomorrow, working on an outline for a D&D plot that I'm doing. I also need to look into some conversion stuff on the Pathfinder, because I really want to convert it into a Pathfinder game. I prefer Pathfinder to 5e. But I also have the second edition of Pathfinder, so I need to like study up on that. So, but back to the game. The problem with torture is that people will say anything to get out of it. Yeah, 5e blows. I mean, the only good thing about 5e is that it's very easy to get into. That's the only thing that's good about it. But if you like want to play some good D&D with some proper like customization and stuff, you'll either play Pathfinder or 3.5. Those are like the best ones. I like both Pathfinder and 3.5 on different merits. I have a difficult time choosing between the two of them, really. We can discuss some more Pathfinder versus 3.5 later, just on Discord or something, because I want to focus on this game. But I just go over some basic stuff later because, yeah, I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it. It states that the police were alerted by a report from the defendant. And we know the defendant left the room, climbed the stairs, and made the phone call from the first floor of the bowl club. Whoa. So, explain how you kept your eyes on the defendant when he left the room entirely. Jeez. The man who picked up the bottle and swung that night wasn't the defendant. Just then, Smith grabbed the bottle from next to right, and he hit me. You, some master of cheating you turn out to be. When I came to, the victim was already dead. Is that it? Well, when the victim was already dead, is that it? That's why I couldn't reveal who I really was. If it came out that I was in league with with Smith, I'd be a suspect for sure. Well, where does this leave us? Madness! This is madness! I'm dreaming! It must have been me who was hit with a bottle, and I'm imagining all of this. Apparently our prosecution is at its wit's end, and frankly, I can't blame him. Mr. Gavin, what do you think about this turn of events? Mr. Gavin, sir? I believe that, as the defense in this case, we are compelled to call Miss O'Reilly a big fat liar. What? 3 were in the room of the night of the murder. The defendant, the victim, and her. And she has a motive. A motive? Her plot foiled, the witness got in an argument with her client, Mr. Smith. And the announcement of that argument was murder. What? I am no killer. It's a trap. Someone is trying to frame me. What a tangled webs we weave when we practice to be deceived. When we practice to deceive. So tangled we'd catch ourselves in the process. Mr. Wright? Such a hasty conclusion. It's not like you, Christoph Gavin. What are you trying to say? Why not consider this other possibility? That there was a fourth person in the room at the time of the murder? Right. Like Mr. Wright was saying before recess, a single card was swapped into the victim's hand after the murder. And the one who swapped the card didn't know the two colors of cards were being used. A fourth person.
Ha! This theory again, your fourth person doesn't exist!
Indeed. That is why I decided to bring this case to court. Here, there is no escape, no chance for deception. A perfect place to catch the real criminal. The real criminal? And we're in luck. A clue to the real criminal's identity was kindly provided to us. And right at the beginning of the trial, no less. Here is something I do love about this game. This part here, like this foreshadowing and this like realization as you go on.
What?
Apollo, perhaps you know what I'm talking about? Sorry? Remember what I said? The fourth person swapped the cards made one critical error. He or she wasn't considering the color of the back of the cards. Right. But how could such an obvious mistake occur? The cards used for the last game were red. Yet, there was one person here, in our courtroom, who thought those cards were blue. That line there was foreshadowed in the very beginning of this case, a trial. Yeah, I had an impression too, but why? Well, Apollo, think you can figure out who it was?
It's not me, I swear!
Who is this fourth person? Why do I always get put on the spot like this? Let's hear what the defense has to say. Who was it? Who thought the cards used in the final game was blue? As I expected. Your eyes and ears are as sharp as your hair. I was right? Christoph Gavin, you were the first person that night. But of course Mr. Gavin knows the color of the cards. How could he? As you can see, the photo of this crime is black and white. You can't tell which of the cards are blue, the ones on the floor or on the table. But look! You can see the color of the cards in this photo! Yes, but when he said the cards were blue, it was well before this evidence came to light. Oh, thanks, Mina. That line there, wreathed in blue flame, poetic justice. Well, Krista? Mr. Gavin? Mr. Gavin, is something the matter? No, nothing, excuse me. It was just so... sudden. Right. You aren't seriously accusing me, are you? Oh, Krista. You know, even I would never take a joke this far.
This has gone beyond ridiculous, beyond dumb. This is insanity. The defendant is accusing his own defense attorney for murder.
I assure you, I am quite sane.
But what possible connection could Mr. Gavin have to the victim? It does, Pix. And I just had to lead it down the salt line previously. Because, you know, just to make this twist, like, not be too obvious. And I think this will be the only case I play today because my throat is death from doing Winston Payne. I wasn't aware that I had a connection to Mr. Smith either. Yes, but Mr. Gavin and Whitnick, them had never met. A boot to the head. Well, what if you have? Aha! There is a possibility after all. They may have met that night before the game started. What are you suggesting? Is this the truth Mr. Wright was staying silent about? Well, only one thing to do. Mr. Wright, the defense would like to request that you testify to the court. The defense would like to request no such thing. Mr. Gavin, testimonies must relate to this case. How could anything happen before the... How could anything happen before the game of poker be related? I am not sure I follow, Mr. Gavin. As I explained before, the defense will believe that Miss O'Reilly... Am I to assume that you speak for Mr. Justice in this? He is the defense, not you. Mr. Justice, the matter of Mr. Wright's testimony is up to you. Oh, okay. Does the court, in your opinion, need to hear Mr. Wright's testimony? It was Mr. Wright's strategy. He was planning this all along, and I intend to see it through. The defense would like to request that Mr. Wright testify to the court. And too, Justice, you will betray me, your teacher. I'm sorry, Mr. Gavin. This isn't about loyalty. This is about the truth. Very well. The defendant, Mr. Wright, will take the stand, please. Rick, welcome back. Big food. Oh, food is delicious. That evening, Christopher and I had dinner. We sat at a table we sat at the table in this photograph. Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after Christoph left. When the trap failed, Smith hit the waitress. The girl was knocked out cold and Smith was uncontrollable. I left to call the police. When I returned, he was dead, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. That's when I made another phone call to defense attorney Gavin. Mr. Gavin, you work at Bosch's Brawl Hotel and Club at the night of the murder. I dine with him rather frequently. And he talked to the defendant on the phone directly after the murder? Quite against my will, I had become involved in a murder. I thought I might be in need of a lawyer, so I called him. You were planning this all along, weren't you, Wright? Just because you wanted to drag me into your little murder trial. The only thing I want is the truth. As I did back then, and as I do right now. I thought my office was doing you a favor when we took your defense. It appears that I was wrong. Very well. The defense may cross-examine the witness. Justice? Sir? He is lying, and you are going to expose him. Understood, sir. Mr. Gavin versus Mr. Wright? This can't end well. I can't have a normal trial? You are involved with Phoenix Wright. Your life will never be normal again. You had dinner with Mr. Gavin? Yes, he dines with me at Bosch's Ball Club quite frequently. We will enjoy a usual dinner at our usual spot, as usual. Usual. I always eat at the table closest to the piano. I see. Where? Also, notice a thing in this picture. Here. I see, where Mr. Smith was sitting.
So, the place and such were on the table were from your dinner.
Indeed, the remnants of my meal with Christoph. We dined for 2 hours, then Christoph left. After that, Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after. 5 minutes? So, the two of them could have passed in the restaurant during that time? That would have been a fateful encounter, to be sure.
Oh, Mr. Wright, what was it that you said? Christoph Gavin and Shady Smith may have met?
I believe I did say that.
Here I was nervous about this meeting. And now we hear that you just passed in the hall.
But does she seem like a little weak as a pretense for murder? Oh, it would be, if that is really what happened. Come on, Mr. Wright. What are you hiding this time? About this failed trap. This is the same trap that Miss Olga O'Reilly mentioned? Yeah, you are not incorrect there, Tenho. You are not incorrect. Yes, harmless pranks in essence. It was by a quirk of fate that I happened to discover it.
A quirk?
I happened to put my hand in my pocket and I found a card. The card you planted! Yes, I snuck a peek at it and I found it was a 5 hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game. Disposed? Where? And there was an empty bottle of wine I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside of the bottle.
An empty bottle of wine?
The murder weapon? Yes. I rolled it up and shoved it in. The colored glass makes it hard to see. A battle of wits between the deceiver and the would-be deceived. That sounds like a terrific drama. A card inside a murder weapon? That's strange. Did the police miss it in their investigation? Maybe I'll take a look. Mr. Wright, Pokerhead of courtroom number 3 approves of this battle of wits. The bottle is completely empty. Please revive your testimony with this new information. Mr. Wright, if I may? Yes? I've examined the bottle and I don't see any cards in here. No? What, Mr. Wright? Surely isn't all you have to say for yourself? I can't say that I know what happened to the card. I did put it in that bottle, however. Perhaps a 5th person came and took it out. Oh, and a 6th person could have helped. Mr. Gavin, Mr. Wright is your client. Oh, my apologies, Your Honor.
I won't have you disparaging our investigation either. We looked inside that bottle, there was nothing.
So, what's going on? Is Mr. Wright hoodwinking us again? Or did that card just disappear? In any case, please continue with the cross-examination. I'm afraid decisive contradictions call for decisive evidence. Oh, push him harder, Justice. Break him. It's just you and the witness in the ring. Go for the KO. Ugh, why do I get the feeling we're not on our client's side anymore? You made a call to the police from the first floor of the restaurant, correct? Exactly. Cell phones don't get a signal down in the hideout. Was anyone else on the first floor at the time? Not a soul. It was the middle of the night after all. So there, in the darkened restaurant, I called the cops. After making a call, I returned to the hideout. It didn't seem right to leave the injured waitress alone. And when you returned, the victim was already... dead. Yes. I'll admit, I was a little startled when I first walked in. Because Phoenix is not a defense attorney. We're working on that, yes. Oh, little. He was bleeding from his cord head after all. Yes, I guess I'd be startled too if I walked in a scene like that. Could you explain why you called Mr. Gavin? I obviously got involved in a rather, well, sticky affair. I think that Crystal's law officers would give me a friend's rate for my defense fees. Glad to hear you intend to pay. Oh, I'll pay in full, Kristoff. It was I who got you involved after all. You may find the price of your defense quite high, my good friend. Quite high. Is this the truth that Mr. Wright was talking about? Justice, you know what you have to do. He's lying. Expose him. Now. Yes, sir. I don't think what's Mr. Wright trying to tell me with his testimony. The truth is in there somewhere. Wow, that's bad. That's very bad. It's good to hear that you are entertained, Pix. Wow, the battery's ahead with a piece of tape. Should buy a new one. Maybe we can afford it. Maybe it doesn't care. But why though? Something else up with this one. Yeah, there's nothing else here. I can't remember how this goes, actually. Wait a minute.
Objection!
That's the one. Mr. Wright, if I may. Yes? Take a look at this photograph on the crime scene. See the victim here? He was wearing a hat. I wouldn't think you could have seen blood on his forehead. Good point. Justice. Next time you point out an inconsistency, put a little more oomph into it. Mr. Wright, can you explain this to the court? Ha, I forgot to mention something. I was the one who put that hat on his head. Huh? You? You put the hat on the dead man's head. He wore it through the entire poker game. After calling the police when I returned to the scene, his head was in full view. Shining bright, just like in this photograph. And I picked his hat off his floor and put it on his head.
Why did you do a thing like that?
All I can say is I'm sorry. But that's the only thing I touched at the scene of the crime. So, Miss Aurelia didn't see it? It being the victim's, head? I'd think not, she was out cold. I believe I was the only one who witnessed his head. Ah, here we go again. Mr. Gavin? Pardon. It just seems that our client is determined to lie his way through this case. Hey, he's still our client, isn't he? I believe that's enough of that. Mr. Gavin? This witness testimony is more like a travesty. It's riddled with lies. I'm beginning to see how you came to lose your attorney's badge 7 years ago. Well, you clearly have a unique way of treating your clients, Christoph. Well, I never knew. I believe it was you who threw the first stone. Mr. Wright, if you intend to ever tell the truth about this case, it's now or never. Don't be misled. I haven't told a single lie here. Huh? When I noticed the trap, I put the card in the bottle to dispose of it. And when I put the hat on the victim's head, I just had a reason for doing that as well. A reason? That reason is right here. Your cell phone? That night, recall that I spoke with defense attorney Gavin after calling the police? Just in case, I recorded our conversation. What's this? Now that we're all here, I see no reason why I shouldn't play it back for the court. Christoph, I seem to be in a bit of trouble. What's this? Game not going well? Ah, something like that. That gentleman who challenged you, he turned out to be good? He turned out to be dead. Someone hit him. Hard. You mean someone cracked that flawless bone china plate? It wasn't you, was it? Me? Please. The cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands. Should it come to that? Bone china plate? A kind of porcelain, very smooth and shiny, but not plate. Pate. I believe he was referring to a certain gentleman's balding forehead. court appreciates the defender's discretion in not indicating my forehead. Wait a second. Something is not right about that phone call. So, after Mr. Gavin ate dinner with you, he left the Brush Bowl Club. Most certainly. Then how did he know? When did he see this bone china pate? Oh, that's right. Yes. That was when I began to see my good friend in a different light. Troubled, I returned to the crime scene. When I spotted Mr. Smith's head again, I realized exactly what was wrong. Well, Mr. Gavin, the stage has been set. Perhaps you would like to explain this to the court. Exactly how did you come by your privileged knowledge of the victim's head? So, this is your reason. This is why you put the victim's hat back on. Your point, Mr. Gavin? It's come down to this, has it, Phoenix Wright? Order! I will have order! Mr. Payne!
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe this court has been left with no other choice. Are you prepared to hear defense attorney Gavin's testimony?
Well, as prosecutor,
Very well. We'll break for 10 minutes. After which, Mr. Gavin will take the stand for a cross-examination. Are we all clear on that? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Very well. This will be the final recess of the day. The thing is also to think about when it comes to this game compared to the previous one is that this game was on the DS. This game was first released on the DS, hence they can pack so much more content onto it, so the cases can be longer. Unlike the ones from the previous one with Phoenix, because those were originally on the Game Boy Advanced. That is something to consider. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chamber. Who would have thought today would come to this? Well, if I may? Huh? What? Hello, sir. Please, pick a card. Huh? What's this all about? Hat Kid! Say hello to Trucy Wright. Is this one okay? Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. You'll need a trump card to make it. A trump card? The card you have chosen is magical. Use it wisely, and the game is yours. That is all. An ace? Where do I remember that card from? The missing fifth ace. Wait, this blush of red. Is this blood? You have your trump card. Now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw the truth. My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it. Isn't she adorable? This bloodstained card is my trump card for finding the truth? I fell into a deep thought as my mind raced to understand what it all meant. That girl. I had seen her recently, but where? That's when I made the connection. court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Christoph Gavin, will you take the stand? Now then, if you could, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the witness state his name and occupation.
Is this farce necessary, Your Honor? Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. Now, ain't that the truth? The judge is unfazed. He's like, yeah, it's just a regular Monday for me. It's not even Tuesday. Fine, I'll play along. First, there is one thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing you mean the fact that Mr. Smith was bald? Oh, forgive my curiosity, but what is this about this fellow's head? I need to open the window because it's bloody hot. Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it. Oh. I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. Mr. Wright? What do you think you're doing, Mr. Wright? Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, here's something to consider for a second. The victim wore a hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time. That one time being the instant he was hit. Oh! When Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, the hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and passed it on to the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have to have been at the scene of the crime, at the time of the crime. In other words, you'd have to be the real killer? Is that what you're trying to say? Not bad, Apollo. Mr. Gavin? I'm afraid I haven't been entirely honest with the court.
What?
Oh, I assure you, I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation I see little reason to hide anything. Very well, allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night. Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night? Gods, I was not remembering this case to be so long. We've been going for like 2.5 hours and my throat is agony. I can say for sure that tomorrow I will not be playing any, I will not be streaming anything that requires me to speak. I don't think I'll be streaming at all. I think we'll just like sit at home and just be silent and not do anything because this is like
Typical in the morning.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, I haven't felt like this since I was singing for musicals and practicing for that. Like, pain. Actually, after a week of performing musicals, like that's how it feels like now. It's pain. The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I'm so glad that Winston Payne isn't a regular fixture. I have been out of practice, I guess. Especially considering we don't see Winston Payne so often. I went down to the basement and peeked through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appears in the photo, a bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that was not the best place for me to be in, so I left. That's when the call came from Wright.
So, you witnessed the murder?
For better or worse, better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed. Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team? Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client. What else could I say? I was standing on the witness stand after all. So you are Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify just as you did. You had to tell him you saw the scene of the crime through that little window. Mr. Wright? You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo? Oh. Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared? Yes, Your Honor. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. That man, you mean Mr. Smith? He was different from other customers. His aura, shall we say. I knew he was a serious poker player, but there was more to it than that.
So then, you knew the true nature of your client's job?
Of course. But I also knew that he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal. Well, it would make sense that he'd know. They were friends after all. Word from my friend, I will return to the club. You see, I feared that this Mr. Smith might be someone who coming to settle an old score. I see. What happened then? The little window? You mean the one used to keep watch up at the stairs? Yes, a relic of an ancient past. The black market used it, I believe. Why did you go through the trouble of peeking through the window? Would it have been easier to just open the door and go into the room? I didn't want to upset Bright, you see. Upset Mr. Bright? Yes. What if my fears have been unfounded? I'll be walking in on their match. Bad form, to say the least. So far, everything he says makes sense. How did you know that? Do we know it was right after the murder? Really, no need to shout, Justice. Ugh. Yeah, that is true, Pix. We're getting to it. I was just getting to that part in my testimony. Ah, there he is. The coolest defense in the West that we know and love. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change. I was afraid you'd change too, right? But you haven't. You and that overbearing personality of yours. With friends like these, who needs enemies? By photo, you mean the second photograph of the scene of the crime? Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead. And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
Those were the only three at the scene of the crime? Yes, as far as I saw at least.
Then we're back to where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, well, my office was asked to defend Wright. After seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend. There must have been someone else at the moment of the crime. Justice. I just said that I saw no one. Not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said. Ah, yes. This mysterious fourth person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose? Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap the cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary? How can I show something I can't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card was swapped out was the 5th ace. The 5th ace? Right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out the card has been raised. Can you point out a reason? It's a now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why the card was swapped out. Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take out the 5th ace? My reason is, this.
Is that an ace?
Why? Why, it's got blood on it. Right next to the spade.
What? This is insane! Why wasn't I told about this? Why?
Could this be the missing 5th ace?
Inconceivable. How could you... What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishy card from a fishy girl. Oh, that card? It's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Bosch Club at that night after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock in trade after all. No, impossible. Unacceptable. The court can't accept this evidence. It's fraud. A fraud? How can you be so sure? But what? I would think that the only person who could claim this was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason? The reason for? For the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime?
Where are you going with this?
Take another look at the photo and the victim's head. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of that blood have fallen on one of the cards? I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible. Oh? Right. Regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence. Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken the card from the crime scene? And now, I've told you. One drop of blood would be decisive evidence, you see. This is baseless conjecture. Baseless! Oh, I assure you, it is quite based. What? It is amazing, really, how a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It is quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime. In your head. The murder took place at the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table. And, before the killer swapped the card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene. Well, what is it? Well, let's keep it all simple, shall we? Given that there's a blood on the drop of the card, a drop of blood on the card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit?
The victims? The killers? Or the second victims? That'll be the victim. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem? I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look, the victim was struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. You think any blood would fall behind the body and not onto the table in front of him? Take a look at this photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood would have fallen on the floor, not on the cards. Why, that's right. So what does this mean? Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Swivel chairs? Oh man. Apollo, try turning the chair around. The chair was facing the other way. It would have to be. So, we have to assume at the time of the murder, the victim's chair was facing away from the table. When Mr. Wright returned from informing the police, which way was the chair facing? When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo. That would mean the killer turned the chair back around. Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know that the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder, but this creates another significant contradiction. Again? Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location in this diagram would contradict our new understanding of the crime? The victims, the killers, or the witnesses? The victim was struck from the front, correct? Indeed. Well, wouldn't it be hard for a killer to kill him from the front? Sitting where his indicator currently is. I would think that would be quite hard, yes? Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense. Why would the victim suddenly turn to face the wall in the middle of a game? I believe a sufficient reason will come to light soon. What? There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. Apollo, if the victim was struck while sitting as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking it on the diagram. There's no room to put a mark there. Don't worry. Let's think this through and see what we find. We know the victim was facing towards the wall at the time of the crime. That's the only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else. Where did the killer have to be standing to strike our victim from the front? Oh, well, the killer would have to be, well, here. You get points for flair, but that's about all you get. I thought I was able to do something here too. I hardly need to point out that standing there would be impossible. The victim is facing a solid cupboard. Or are you claiming the killer climbed the cupboard and hit him from above? Ha! It's simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been standing, that means at the very moment of the crime... Wait, I know. At the moment of the crime, the cupboard wasn't there. What's this now? I mean, that is the only explanation, right, Mr. Gavin? Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard and hide it immediately. Bailiff, send a team to the crime scene immediately. Have them try to move the cupboard. Ah, Your Honor. What? There's one more thing you men should look for. Please give this to the bailiff. Yes, I see. You do belong in the courtroom after all, Mr. Wright. I do my best. But let's forge ahead here while we wait. Look at the diagram once again. It's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here, which means... Apollo, try moving the cupboard. Thank you. As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. At the time of the murder, it had to have been shown as here. Now, everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my. What's this? What is it now? Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. Like, Phoenix is so goddamn smug here. It's amazing. Like, he has taken lessons from Edgeworth. He is so smug. Oh. Why?
He's just sitting there and he's, or standing there and just...
They like don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. That's a basic tenet of law practice. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to. Why, it appears we have found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact. Huh? Oh, dang. Notice something, Apollo? A line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion. Now then, Mr. Justice, please point to the new contradiction. Is it the victim, the killer, the witness, or the second witness? About this cupboard? Are we okay with assuming that it was moved? Sure, why not? Well, if it was, something really doesn't fit. The cupboard would have completely covered up the window to the stairs. Oh, that's right. Someone standing outside wouldn't be able to see in. Someone, like Mr. Gavin. What did you say? Oh. Is the coolest defense in the West losing his cool? Don't expect me to play along with your little game, right? Oh, it's only a game until someone gets killed, Mr. Gavin. And someone was, while the window to that room was blocked by a cupboard. So, Mr. Gavin, perhaps you'd like to explain to the court exactly where did you witness the crime scene from? Excuse me, Your Honor. Order! This is a court of law, and I will have order. We just now received word from the investigation team of the Bowl Club to examine the cupboard at the hideout, Your Honor. Oh? And what did they find? Well, Your Honor, it turns out there's a secret passage behind it. What? Ah, yes. I believe I mentioned something of the sort before. It is one of the tricks to the room that many of our regulars know about. I do remember him saying something about that now that he mentions it. A secret passage is handy when you're engaged in illegal ongoings on. You never know when you might need to duck away from the eyes of the law. So, the room has a secret passage. Where did it go? The other side connects to the restaurant above. The underworld bosses could get away from the cops and enjoy a cold bowl of borscht, no doubt. Just like our killer. Yep, as he said, Gavin is a regular. You see where a line of simple deductive reasoning has led us, Apollo? Now he's taking another lesson out of Edgeworth's, book here. Logic. Phoenix has finally learned logic. I see it, but I don't believe it. That girl wasn't kidding when she said I needed this trump card for the last hand. At the time of the murder, the window was blocked, and the victim's hat was only off his head for a few minutes between Mr. Smith's murder and Mr. Wright returned from calling the cops. In other words, the only place anyone could have seen the victim's bald head was from inside the hideout. Well, Mr. Gavin, come on, say something. Dare I ask what really happened that night? Actually, I think we can all probably figure it out by ourselves at this point. That night, for whatever reason, our killer had a date with Mrs. Smith. A date with destiny. There he crouched, hidden in the secret passageway behind the cupboard, holding his breath, waiting for just the right moment. Then the chance came, and he took it. Miss O'Reilly was out cold, struck by Mrs. Smith. But his time was too soon to come. Mr. Wright went upstairs to call the cops, leaving Shady Smith alone in the hideout with the unconscious dealer. Then our killer stepped out from the hidden secret passage into the hideout. The victim must have heard that the cupboard was sliding aside. He wheeled his chair around and, after the deed was done, the criminal must have seen the blood on the card. He would have, of course, realized the need to destroy the evidence. That single spot of blood told the whole story of the crime. Too bad for him he didn't linger any longer in the hideout that night. If he had, he might have noticed the card on the floor, and the fact that they were all red. Well, it seems that this trial has taken yet another turn. I'm truly sorry I had to see this day come, Mr. Gavin. Yep, still the first case, but we're reaching the end now. Mr. Gavin? Mr. Payne!
Yes, Your Honor.
The prosecution will continue its investigation. As for Mr. Felix Wright, the defendant is hereby cleared of all suspicion. Believe me when I say that I don't believe this is happening, Mr. Gavin. But I'm afraid the circumstances call for me to issue a warrant for your arrest immediately.
Objection!
Oh, no need to apologize. I rather enjoyed myself. It's not every day you get to witness a legendary attorney's dirty tactics firsthand. Oh, your point, Mr. Gavin? Frankly, Your Honor, I'm shocked. A person of your caliber would be taken in by such a low-grade parlor trick. Excuse me? The defendant is cleared of all suspicion? This is hardly the time for jokes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright hasn't proven anyone's guilt or innocence here. What he has done is use illegal evidence to put the blame on someone else. And not just anyone else, but me, his own defense attorney. Illegal evidence? Let me ask you, Mr. Gavin. Is there still any reason at present to suspect me of wrongdoing? Of course. This bottle, for instance. The bottle of wine Mr. Wright was drinking? How do you intend to explain away the fingerprints on the murder weapon? Not just any fingerprints, am I right, Mr. Payne?
Actually, yes. The fingerprints in the bottle were upside down.
That's actually very easy. I seem to recall this being an issue earlier. The court and this case demand an explanation. I can only think of one reason why this one would hold a bottle upside down, and that is to hit someone with the bottom of the bottle. Well, Your Honor. Ah! See how the court fish squirms to the last. Now, well, Apollo? Yes? Your boss seems awfully concerned about this bottle still. But I'm sure you can come up with a suitable explanation just like that. Yeah, just like what? Why would anyone grab a bottle upside down other than to, Don't let him trick you into thinking explanation is the only legitimate one. Is there actually another reason? I'll take another look at the court record. I believe you'll find a simple answer there, in plain sight, actually. How about you just say the answer in plain words? It would be hasty to deliver a verdict without some questions indeed. Well, Mr. Justice, Mr. Cabot said that the court and this case demand an explanation. Don't worry, justice won't leave until justice is done. Perhaps the defense will check to enlighten the court. What evidence do you have to explain the fingerprints on a bottle are upside down? It's actually easier to show you than to explain, Your Honor. Place the bottle on the floor, next to your chair. Excuse me? On the floor? Yes, now reach down and pick it up. Without getting out of your chair. Ah! See? You're naturally going to pick up the bottle by the neck. With your fingers upside down. Look at the photograph taken on the night of the murder. The defendant, Mr. Wright, sat here, playing piano, bottles of wine on the floor to the side of his piano bench. He would naturally picked up the bottles upside down several times. Wow, I can't believe it was that simple. Recall our dinner that evening, Christoph? I was drinking my usual wine then too. Basically, you used a bottle on the table to do the deed, but then you must have remembered. So you went to pick up one of the bottles from under the piano, and you switched the bottles. You took one of Mr. Wright's bottles and made it look like the murder weapon. Order, order, order! What do you have to say to these charges, Mr. Gavin? Fascinating. So this is the legendary attorney's famed tactic of misdirection. What? You claim that I switched a bottle? Where did you see your proof? A proof? Well, that's it, as I thought, more baseless conjecture. I'm afraid your bottle of proof is quite empty. Objection! I wouldn't be so sure about that. Your Honor, when you initiated an investigation of the hideout earlier, do you recall I requested an additional investigation? Oh yes, I have your memo about it right here. Retrieve the bottles from under the piano at the bowl club. And here is one of the bottles in question. Huh. What, are you going to dust up for fingerprints too? I would be surprised if any were on that but his. Mr. Cabin probably wouldn't make such a novice mistake, true. That bottle wouldn't bear a trace of anything. Say, Apollo. Yes? Why don't you go ahead and examine that bottle? But why? Just humor me. Oh, Mr. Wright, that bottle will solve this case once and for all. What? That's some bottle. There's something inside the bottle. What's this? That card, it can't be. Recall an unpleasant woman's testimony for a moment. Miss Olga, or really? Okay, Mina, take care. We're probably wrapping this up within the next, 15 minutes. Thank you for joining us, Mina. Yes, our little swindling Davochka. Wait, this is... You're telling me that this is a planted card you disposed of? The one you mentioned in this piece of testimony. The 5 of hearts. This is the card. The bottles were swapped. And the only one who could have done that was the 4th person in the club that night. You, Mr. Christoph Gavin. That is all. Is this your idea of revenge, Phoenix writes? Revenge? Revenge for the events that took away your attorney's badge 7 years ago. My past is like my logic, straight and true. Nothing has changed. All I did was point the finger of justice in the proper direction. Fine. I am glad we could have this little tete-a-tete, right?
This is insane! What about me? Don't I get to prosecute anyone?
I believe the time has finally come to end our trial. Mr. Payne, do you have a report for us on Christoph Gavin?
He's admitted everything. We're processing his arrest right now.
I see. Still, one had to wonder why he would do such a thing. He didn't even have a connection to the victim, did he?
None that we know of.
Mr. Wright, have you anything to add? I'm afraid I can't shed any more light on this matter. About this victim, Shani Smith. His occupation was listed as traveler. An old profession for sure, and that's all we know about him.
I'll arrange for a follow-up investigation, Your Honor.
Good. Mr. Wright. Yes? 7 years and you still haven't lost your touch. Christoph Gavin. Oops. Was a man with much significance for me, both as a friend and as a lawyer. He was extremely talented for sure. I needed 2 things before I could confront him. The first was a place where no injustice would be tolerated. This courtroom. The second was a man who would tolerate no injustice. In other words, a defense attorney. You, Apollo. Me? A dark time is coming for our legal system. A twisting of justice brought on by our very own court system. We have to set it right. Mr. Wright! Our work lies ahead of us. And I, for one, I'm looking forward to it. Well, this seems like a good time to announce a verdict. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Phoenix Wright. I'm afraid I was mistaken. We don't get to see why Phoenix doesn't have his is not a lawyer anymore, but we do know that his attorney's badge was taken from him. The bar expelled him, basically. That is all we know. And it will be revealed in this game in due time. Thanks, Apollo. You came through just like I thought you would. I'm pretty sure I didn't do anything in there. It was you who cornered Gav, the killer. I couldn't have done it by myself. You sensed it too, today, didn't you? Your ability. Ability? Yes. A sensitivity I lack. Well, you'll come to understand it soon enough. Oh my voice is cracking now. Oh, I am looking forward to end this now because my thought is death. Wait, I wonder if he means... What was that, Mr. Wright? You'll have to find the answer for that yourself. The answer? Right. Today was full of questions without answers, most of them about Mr. Cabin. What possible reason could he have to commit murder? Perhaps you'll learn that in the days to come. Huh? Wait. You don't know, do you? This locket is the key. Huh? Oh, that reminds me. I met the girl whose picture is in your locket. Your daughter, right? That's right. She's my daughter. You know, you were right about this locket. Huh? I took it off his neck the night he died. But it looks like our dear Russian scam artist saw me. So the truth is, this locket really did belong to him. Wait, that's perjury! You testified. You said that the locket was yours. I said no such thing actually. Huh? I might have said it was a locket with my daughter's pictures inside. A subtle distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. And that is the truth. Wait, but then why? Remember when I said there will be feels? Why was the victim wearing a locket with a picture of your daughter inside of it? Sometimes the straightest path to the truth isn't the best one. Give it time. You're still just getting started with your career. Speaking of which, I may be out of a job. I work at the Gavin law offices after all. I still can't believe I just saw Mr. Gavin get led away in handcuffs. Apollo. Yes? How about coming work for me? Huh? You mean at the Wright & Co. law offices? I mean, there's not a single attorney in my generation that doesn't know it. I can't imagine that to be true, but... Wait, but didn't you... You're not a... Oh, I turned my badge, yes. I'm not an attorney anymore. That incident 7 years ago. That legendary trial. And at the middle of it all was one man. Phoenix Wright. The case reached its sad conclusion and he left the law for good. Have you ever thought about coming back to the courts? I am not qualified to stand in a court of law, I'm afraid. Didn't you notice in today's trial? There was a single piece of forged evidence. Forged evidence? What are you talking about? I'm talking about evidence that shouldn't have existed. A naughty magician's trick. One piece of evidence struck me as odd, that is true. It just seemed, well, too perfect. I'll bet this was the forged evidence. You mean this, don't you? I got this from your daughter, Mr. Wright. Yes. That card couldn't have been found at this crime scene. Why? Well, because the killer took it with him when he left. Leaving the wrong card in its place, luckily for us. My verdict was already handed down 7 years ago. Then, you really? Yes. I forged this card. One look at the crime scene should have told you it wasn't real. But you can't do something like that and call yourself an attorney. Who's calling themselves an attorney, Apollo? So it is true. The rumor is true! 7 years ago. None of that matters much now does it? Ah! I punched him. It's your story from here on out, Apollo. Perhaps I can help you turn the page. My office's address. Drop it in if you like. Mr. Wright. Oh, about your uppercut? Try yelling "take that" next time. I find it packs a little bit more punch. Oh, and Apollo. Thanks for today. I had a good time. And with that, Mr. Wright walked out of the door. And that's how my first trial ended. A lot of mysteries went unsolved. And at the time, I had no idea they were all related. Every mystery that day, connected by a single thread of logic. I'd find that out sooner or later. My name is Apollo Justice, attorney at law, and this is how my story begins. Oh my goodness. But yes, so so before we end today's stream, there's something I would like to show you all. Now, we all know that the locket that Phoenix was wearing with a picture of his daughter was belonged to the victim. And I'm going to show you all something. I just need to set things up properly. This one and here and here.
And then he tried to take down Phoenix.
No, there was something else going on there, which we will return to later. Because I am a merciful God that will keep you all in suspense and keep you all coming back to me.
Too bad though, I really wanted to know who he married. I was like, fuck.
Who says he has to marry though? We can still ship all the ships regardless.
Yeah, but I wanted a cannon ship.
So that will be it for today's case of Phoenix Wright. Well, not Phoenix Wright, Apollo Justice. The story, like, even if I find this is my least favorite case because I just find Apollo a little boring compared to Phoenix. But wait, there is more coming down this line. And you will look back upon this moment because I'm telling you there's more to this. Like, even more than this what just happened. And you will hate us. Well, hate me for it. And I will love it. Yes, pigs, there is more bullshit to be had. And it will become, well, magical. So, we have some rating to do, I believe.
But why would I hate you for the bullshit?
Because you have to wait. And you will... Yeah. So, yes. I don't know if we'll do a sofa stream this weekend. We'll have to see. Because, you know...
I'm fine though.
Huh?
There's other things you will go and glare at me for.
Yeah. I can't remember Pix. I can't. But at the very least, like, a famous magician. Now, can we raid someone? I don't have anyone to raid. Well then. That complicates things.
Why?
Well, I guess we just have to
Skip raiding.
yeah, skip the raid. You are correct though, Pix. That is a they are mentioned. They are a thing, but I'm not sure if that's a no, and no. The troop is a thing, but it's not mentioned in the games you are thinking of. At least not by. I think maybe it might be mentioned. I can't remember, to be honest, if it actually was in the mentioned in investigations, but it could be that. Oh, if that is the case, then it might be related to the Gatewater land. Probably, considering it has the stage and all that. Yeah, the kidnap turnabout. So, but with that, I'm going to show you all some music. Well, we had this song in the beginning, but I'm going to play it again regardless because, actually no, but yes, I will. So, I hope you all will have a good weekend. I don't know if we'll be streaming like during the weekend, but we'll see. If I do, it might be something small, something simple. I don't have to talk too much. Maybe even just on Discord. So, yeah. I hope to see you sometime soon. And, yeah. Thank you for joining me. And let's go to the end card. For the first time in What Seems Forever.